New rules for PGA parking. Some neighbors in the Oak Hill neighborhood were confused and concerned about the potential impact. 13 WAM's Jackie Napier spoke to the town of Pittsford and PGA organizers about how they hope door-to-door outreach will help smooth things over.
The announcement of new parking rules and regulations for the PGA tournament left some Pittsford homeowners feeling uncertain about what next week will look like.
We're all, I think, a little nervous about how it's going to be enforced and be a little unsure about how it's all supposed to work.
In years past, several homeowners in the Oak Hill neighborhood cashed in on tournaments by charging golf fans to park in their lawns. This time around, the PGA sent letters to 84 nearby homes requiring PGA-verified parking hang tags for homeowners who plan to park vehicles on their lawns or driveways, leaving some neighbors upset.
There's a little bit of misinformation out there, so we wanted to make sure that that was clarified. And so we're just going door to door and we're letting people know that they can still have parking in their lawn if they want. And we're providing them with 15 parking passes.
Spencer Bernard, chief of staff for Pittsford, says the town has gotten several phone calls from residents who are confused, prompting him and the head of PGA security to visit each of the affected homes.
I'm glad that the PGA was able to clarify that for you.
Ron Billetier has been a member of Oak Hill Country Club for 35 years. He says that in spite of the changes, he's confident the event will go off without a hitch.
It's a great thing that they're doing, I think, to try to satisfy everybody, because you can't please everyone, but you're doing the best you can. I think it's going to go pretty smooth. It always does, So yeah. We're looking forward to it.
Jackie Napier, 13 WAM News.
84 homeowners, as you heard, are impacted. They're free to sell their PGA-verified hang tags to anyone who wishes to park on their lawn.
The hospital tonight. Good evening. I'm Matt Malloy. Deputies have charged 39-year-old Michael DeFrancesco with vehicular assault and driving while impaired by a drug. 13 WAM's Carla Rogner spoke with the victim's mother about her long road to recovery. Carla, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Matt. The last few days have been difficult for 14-year-old Haley Poole, who suffered severe injuries when she was hit over the weekend. She had to be flown to Golisano Children's Hospital, where she's been ever since.
It's honestly been the worst thing that has ever happened to our family.
Teresa Poole hasn't left her daughter's side at Golisano Children's Hospital since the crash.
She keeps saying, Mom, why did this person hit me? What did I do to deserve this?
On Sunday afternoon, 14-year-old Haley was walking State Route 444 in Bloomfield with her friend.
From what I've been told, this person was driving down the road, hit my daughter from behind. She hit the windshield and then landed on the road. By the time I got there, she was covered and heading into the ambulance. And they were also calling Mercy Flight because she was coming in and out of consciousness.
The 9th grade girl who loves to ride horses and play with her pets, now hospitalized with a broken shoulder and being treated in the burn unit.
She's can barely walk. She has massive road burns all over her body. She is very traumatized right now.
Her mom says the crash will leave her with extensive scars, both physically and emotionally.
I know Haley already told me that this person that hit her has ruined her life and she is never going to walk on the road again. Yeah. She's too scared to. She's not even going to take her dog for a walk on the road.
Teresa found out shortly before our interview the driver who hit Haley was charged with driving under the influence of a drug.
I'm very upset because, come on, really? If you're going to do drugs or drink alcohol, do it at home. Don't get behind a wheel, because that does cloud your judgment. And he could have killed my baby or killed her friend.
The driver is also charged with vehicular assault and other vehicle and traffic violations. He was released with an appearance ticket. Haley's friend, who was walking with her at the time of the crash, did suffer minor injuries. She was able to visit Haley at Golisano this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Carla, on Kenwood Avenue tonight. All right, on to the other news. A Rochester man who accused a former priest of sexual abuse is being awarded $95 million under the Child Victims Act. This is one of the most significant judgments since the laws changed here in New York State. Cheyenne Walker spoke with the plaintiff's attorney today, who says this lawsuit is not about money, but rather the healing that can now take place.
Yes, Don, attorney Amy Keller says her client can now begin the healing process. It took 3 years for this case to be heard by a jury after the initial complaint was filed in 2020. Amy Keller says her client once dreamed of becoming a lawyer or even the president of the United States. But an incident in 1979 when he was just a teenager changed his life.
He came from a very impoverished area within Rochester. Essentially, the priest had stopped and asked the victim if he wanted a ride home. And the victim noticed that he was a priest, observed that he was a priest, and agreed to accept a ride from him.
According to a complaint filed under the Child Victims Act, the plaintiff alleges former Rochester priest Foster Rogers sexually abused him in the car. He was only 15 at the time.
It destroyed his life. He has had significant issues since then. He suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, major depression, severe recurrent, as well as generalized anxiety disorder. That as a result of the abuse, he suffers from substance and alcohol use issues. He has flashbacks and triggers of the abuse.
Keller says on Wednesday, a Monroe County jury came to a $95 million verdict with $50 million for punitive damages. In 2002, 13 WHAM reported that Rogers was one of 3 local priests who resigned from their post at the request of Bishop Matthew Clark after allegations of abuse.
With the passage of the Child Victims Act, I feel like victims weren't necessarily coming forward and telling their side and filing complaints and wanting to hold perpetrators and institutions responsible simply for the money, but they want change. They want real change.
And Keller says the victim had no prior connections to Foster Rogers or the church he was associated with at the time. She says Rogers represented himself in the trial, and since the verdict, Keller says 5 more people have come forward with abuse allegations.